this on? Yes. So, hello everyone. I apologize for my voice. There was a self-defense workshop here yesterday, and we did a shouting circle. So, that's what happened, but I will try. So, let me introduce briefly all our panelists. Many of you have stayed from Jacinta's talk, but some of you are new. So, Jacinta Jimenez is an award-winning psychologist, author, and board-certified leadership coach with more than a 20-year career dedicated to the betterment of individuals, leaders, and organizations. Her book, The Burnout Fix, has been recognized as one of the most crucial works to read on this topic. Réka, Szabó, with whom we had a lovely workshop earlier today, is an award-winning dancer, choreographer, and director, founder of the influential The Symptoms Dance Collective. In 2023, after 20 years, they transformed into the Break Collective and are addressing the subject of losing one's vocation in the European art project titled The Bird Experience, which I really recommend that you check out. Bence, Sipka, who is sitting next to me, is a human environment transaction psychologist. Wow, it sounds really complex. His research field is human technology interaction. He's the founding member of Life Tech Balance, a collective of support professionals on coping and adaptation challenges in mental health in the context of rapidly evolving technology. I think we can all relate to that. And finally, Erzsébet Dúcz. She holds a master's degree in English literature, in English language and literature, and she's an educator and a complex art therapist. And she's widely experienced in both formal and non-formal education environments. And I think we'll be hearing about younger people and burnout from her. So without further ado, I want to kick this off. And in order to have a meaningful discussion, I always find it useful to define the terms that we are working with. So my first question to you all, but maybe especially to Jacinta, Erzsébet, and Réka, would be, how would you define burnout? Because I feel like there is a bit of an inflation going on with this term. It's great that it's becoming more and more used and more popular. But I feel like there is not necessarily a clarity about what distinguishes simply feeling tired or exhausted from actually being in the process of burning out or having burned out. So if you could delve into that, any of you.
I can start. I feel like you've been hearing me talk a lot, though. But I would say, and I'll just keep my answer short, but I do think burnout is overly sensationalized because people who've really burned out, it's horrible. Like, it is a gut-wrenching experience. Like I mentioned earlier, Christina Maslach describes it as an erosion of dignity, spirit, and will, an erosion of the human soul. Like, you feel so disconnected to who you are. So it's really important to get it right so that we don't just say everyone's just burned out and keep it kind of high level. Like, it's very serious, and if left unchecked, it can have really serious health consequences. So I think it's really important to make sure that we understand exactly what burnout is.
Actually, I have a very serious example of burnout, from my personal life. I don't know how much you know Orbán, how is it Orbán regime in Hungary, but to lead an independent performing art company here in Hungary under this regime, you should be a huge fighter. So you should push yourself over everything to be able to keep alive a company and do your artistic work. So I did it for 20 years, and I just almost touched the bottom. And it was really hard, though I feel myself a very open people, you know, I think that it's not a shame to ask for help or something, but myself as a leader of a company, I couldn't do that. So it was actually, it's happening step by step, slowly, and I changed in a way. All those values, but I thought that I am sensitive, I'm creative, I'm careless, I am very empathetic. And these values slowly started to change, and it was a shame for me You know, it's a shame to admit that I'm not anymore like that. So how can I admit that? Oh, it's just something I have to fight, I have to go over. So that's, I feel really important that to clarify what is this process, because once you are in, it's really hard to recognize, and it's, I think, so easy to say go for help or ask for help, but actually when you are in, it's the most difficult thing to do, to ask for help. So I think it's also nice if you understand what is this process, not because of yourself, but because, for example, one of your lovers or relatives, or I don't know, to be able to help from the outside.
So in my work, and it's scary to say, but I do experience burnout with my work with adolescents, with teenagers. So high school students. At Milestone Institute, we work with a lot of talented, high-achieving, ambitious, wonderful students, really. And when it comes to the definition of burnout, in my work, I really feel that it's a very complex process, and it's not black and white, and it's not really simple that you just look at a student and you say, okay, honey, your problem is burnout. It's really, it's a very complex process. And what is very important for us, I feel, is that we work as a team, and we try to identify the symptoms together so that we can appropriately support our students. But I think it's extremely important that the students become educated that burnout is something that exists, and it's something that, that is actually very easy to fall into if you are in such a competitive environment, and even with the best of intentions. It's something that is not very easy to avoid.
So what I'm taking mainly from these responses, to reiterate what you're all saying, is first of all that it's more severe than simply feeling tired, right? And that actually, if you are really burned out, you wouldn't put it as a throwaway comment. It wouldn't be a thing like, yeah, whatever, today I burned out, like totally, yeah. So it wouldn't be that category of things, but it would be something that you don't necessarily recognize immediately. It's very hard to admit. It changes your personality. Yeah, thanks. And I also wanted to inquire a little bit, because now we talked a lot about, you know, what we can individually do. Like we heard about protective factors and what you can do for yourself. But I wanted to ask all of you, or whoever would like to comment on this, about who do you think, or what do you think is responsible for this becoming such a big phenomenon? Because it's great that, you know, now we are focusing much more on mental health than we used to do, and there is some emphasis on individuals knowing themselves and being reflective of themselves. But I have the impression that given that it's, you know, so widespread now, there must be other responsibilities in the picture as well. So I was wondering what you think about that. Like, whose responsibility is it? What makes it so prevalent now?
I think I touched already this theme a little bit, because I think in our society especially, we think it's our responsibility. So it's the responsibility of the person. I should take care of myself, I should do my balance, I should measure my energy level and give to myself a nice rest, I don't know. But I think it's too much for a person, and it's also that there is a huge responsibility on the society, on the governments, on the system, how the system works, how capitalism works, how, I don't know. So a lot to talk about how this how we handle all this social media and so on, and how we are encouraged all the time to deal with, or all the time to be more effective, more productive. more so I think I don't want to take all the responsibility for my burning out as well. There was a point when I realized that, okay, it's not only everything on my shoulder, but it's also the system which actually also in our field, as you mentioned, rewarding. So when you put a lot of energy, you have great successes, and then you come into this country and you get nothing. You are nobody. It was very funny because I created a documentary. It was 4 years work. And we won, with this film, we won the Human Rights Prize in Sarajevo Film Festival. And I was standing there and taking this award, and I came home, and I had to go back with all this. So that was actually, so everybody thought I should be happy, you know, this is a great success, and I don't know. And I came home and I just faced again all these problems that I have to struggle for everything, and I am nobody here in this country. And it's such a painful feeling, you know, that I think the system is really responsible also for these stories.
I can jump in because I'm shaking my head a lot. Like I'm like one of those dolls, you know, the bobblehead dolls, because what you're saying is so powerful. The moment of you getting that award and not feeling like, it made me think of this quote by Edward Demings, a bad system will beat a good person every time. So it's like asking like an orchid, you know, a beautiful orchid to go live in a very dry desert environment. Like if we're not in a system that is going to nurture our natural strengths and abilities, that can really deplete us. Even if we're doing everything right in that system, it's that mismatch. So I'm so happy this question's being asked, because yes, we need to monitor and all that stuff I talked about, and we can do that, and the system can still beat us every time. A bad system will beat a good person every time.
So, and to specify what you all mean by systems, so what emerged already is the political systems, right, that can be in place. I suppose that we are like tiptoeing around the word capitalism as well, which is, you know, success, productivity, rewards, things like that, or like a not fostering work environment. Mm-hmm. And I think another kind of system that we are surrounded with, and which comes up also when you mention social media and all the stimulus that we face all the time, is technology. And I wanted to ask Bence what he thinks the role of technology is, because that's primarily your field.
I think that our relationship with technology is similar to the Jurassic Park movie. Because if you remember, when they arrived to the island and everybody is amazed by the wonderful dinosaurs. And we had this experience in the 90s and at the beginning of 21st century with the technology. So we were amazed by the personal computers, MPC players, scanners, and other digital devices. But now we feel that somehow the dinosaurs get out of the cage, and we are overwhelmed by the problems of problems that somehow related to technology, like fake news, polarization in the society, video game addiction, deep fake porn, and I think the main problem is that we are not aware of the advantages and disadvantages of using new technologies. So the long-term effect of the technology usage remain hidden. In the short term, we just feel that when we register to Facebook that, oh my God, that's so cool. I can connect to my friends. I can send them pictures, messages. But nobody ever thought that Facebook could deepen your anxiety and depression. And nobody ever thought that screen time would be the #1 problem of modern families. So the long-term effects remain hidden. And I really love that you, Jacinta, mentioned that information overload takes a big role in burnout. Because I think all of us have an information overload attack on our nerve system. So the problem is that if you know this kind of cyber attack, when hackers work together to overwhelm a web page with data and information, so that's the problem that we are facing now. And the information is a little bit like a drug. So in an evolutionary perspective, information is a benefit for us. So it's never enough. And well, smartphones gives us the opportunity to have an enormous amount of information.
Yeah.
And so does that mean that as a prevention strategy, it's a good idea to create rules for yourself in this regard, so that you, because we heard a lot of prevention strategies already from Jacinta, but are there specific rules that we can apply to technology that on an individual level can help us get out of this kind of bombardment?
Yes, absolutely, I say yes, because so if you have good technology habits, then it could increase your quality of life. But if you had bad habits like scrolling at night in the bed, Instagram and TikTok and other harmful technologies, that could deepen your burnout also. Because, so we have a wonderfully constructed computing machine in our brain, and if we use this brain to process TikTok shorts and Instagram posts, then you don't have energy to process your inner world, your inner negative emotions. So basically, that's a big problem, I think.
Wow.
Thanks. And so I would like to zoom out as well in terms of the prevention side, from the individual to the structural. So we talked a lot about prevention already today, but it was mainly focused, whatever is in your control, right? So I suppose that we could exercise some agency as well towards systems, but I was wondering about the opinion of all of you about what can be done on an institutional or a structural level to prevent burnout, be it state levels or organizational levels or school systems and stuff like that. What can be done and what can individuals do to make what can be done happen, right? So I'm really interested in the input of each and every one of you on this.
I feel that just connecting back to the systemic level as well, I feel that the individual level cannot be completely separated from the systemic level as well, because systems are made up of individuals. And I feel that the question of burnout, and especially in education, and especially in working with adolescents or young people, is a lot a result coming from how we view our value systems. So what is the definitive value system of a certain community? And I feel that we have a huge responsibility there as individuals, which is going to add up on the systemic level as well, because it does matter what is the explicit or implicit message of a certain community regarding how we view what is our main value. And one of the main values of today's communities is high achievement and high performance. And in a lot of cases, that's not even explicit. It's just implicitly there, okay? You just go, you reach out to be the first, the best, to win the competitions, to get to the best schools, and you just cannot rest until you get that. So it's very rare to see today that someone is patted on the back because they sat down for 5 minutes to have a coffee break. And I can really see this among the teenagers I work with. It's just they are just relentless, and they are very, very unwilling to believe me when I tell them that, okay, your assignment for the next month is to rest. Actively rest and come back to me in a month's time and tell me like a concrete list of activities that you did for the sake of, you know, calming your nervous system. So I feel that in this respect, individuals do have a huge responsibility, because it does matter what sort of behavior am I choosing to model for the other members of the community. And that can take on. So other members of the community are going to take that as examples, and it just works like that. So I feel that individuals do have a huge responsibility, while I don't want to question what you added, Réka, about the responsibility of the system. I don't and I will not feel sort of helpless in this aspect.
I really like that you mentioned the value system, because I think it's a really important question related to the technology, that how does technology serve our values? So I think that's a very important question that we should ask ourselves in the future. So how does AI, how does social media serve our values and goals in the future?
Yeah, I love what you said about values, because I just think if we really value performance, we have to value well-being, because well-being and performance are intimately intertwined. Like, if we're not well, we're not going to perform well. Like, the best Olympic athletes we're watching day to day are in their peak well-being. And so it's so important, but the system, the top people have to model that and show that they care about those values, because a lot of it is like productivity. They think hyper-productivity only comes with upsides, not a costly price, and it has such a dark side. Like, there's a limit to how much productivity actually makes, like, just hyper productivity comes with very costly price. I felt it, I experienced it myself, like, it's real. And leaders have to model it and live it. They can't just say we value it and then expect people to work hard or keep promoting hyper productivity and performance behaviors. It's not gonna work. So it takes the individuals showing and demanding that, and the leaders, you know, top down, bottom up approach in some ways, yeah.
So I feel like that's a good line of argument to maybe convince companies or leaders that, you know, if you really want like long-term maintained productivity, you need to implement, you know, mental health practices and model these values in the workplace. But I have a sense that this still sort of instrumentalizes people. So I have a sense that this is not necessarily like giving the deepest sense of the value that we're trying to give here, but it's more of a, you know, it's like a selling point.
For profits, almost,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I wonder if this can actually be reached, like if an ideal state of things can be reached without actually trying to decrease the value of profit in our eyes and attribute a bit more value to what you phrased as humanity, or, you know, to the inherent value of persons as they are, even if they're not bringing, you know, any new dollars to the company.
I just want to say something about this project. You mentioned the bird experience. I created a performance this year with 12 civil people. Civil means, I mean, not professional dancers, just people who wanted to work in this project. They were all people who lost their vocation, their profession, because of some reasons. And I think we are mixing up things a little bit, because I know that we distinguish occupational burnout and burnout in the caring or helping area. And I think in a way that making art or teaching or all those professions where what needs the whole heart and soul of the person belongs to that area. And these 12 people were people who were identifying themselves with their profession. So did it from their whole heart, and it was part of their identity. So when they lost it, it meant that they lost part of their identity. So actually, and this is it's a grief, then it comes a grief, but the society doesn't really admit that this is a process of grief, because, come on, you can have another job, so why are you so sad? And what I wanted to say, that it was very touching process to work with these 12 people, and they were in a way representing kind of the Hungarian society. They were coming from very different areas. And one of the very interesting sign, or I don't know, in the stories, how important for them, they felt very alone, very lonely with their stories, you know. There were, for example, a very bad boss who were abusing one of them, and she didn't get any support from her colleagues, you know, in her fight, or she couldn't really stand up for herself, but she didn't get support from their colleagues. Or another, when a teacher who, you know, in Hungary it's very humiliating what's happening to the teachers. This is really, how the government treats them. And but very few of them dare to say no, or to protest against the government, because it has very serious consequences when a teacher protests against the government here. They are kicked out. So there were a teacher, you know, who protested in her school alone, and no one joined her. And this loneliness in these value fights, because she was in a way fighting for the values she thought that she has to stand out for. So this loneliness and not being supported, that's a big amount of what leads then to burnout, because then you are very lonely in your story, in your way. Yeah. So I wanted to say that being amikor kiállsz a másikért, hogy mondom.
Being supportive and standing by.
Yes, standing by. So coming together, you know, and saying together no for things, or saying coming together, and you feel that you are not alone, but we are there together to say no for things. It gives such a huge force then, which might help you over some difficult situations.
Thank you. So I feel like these points addressed the role of individuals within institutions as leaders, for instance, as teachers, or modeling behavior, and the role of individuals also as peers, or sometimes maybe even as recipients of care. I think it's often, the thanklessness of jobs, the lack of reward that was referred to before can be not only monetary, but reward from recognition for the people you do all of this for. But I'm also curious of potential, these are really important, of course, and I think that they could even somehow be paired up to the 6 types of mismatches and the prevention of them that we heard of before, like lack of community, is when your colleagues don't stand by you and you don't stand up together for your rights. But I was also wondering of more kind of serious or regulatory measures that we could push for, whether there are any things that we could collectively demand. So people who care about this topic, what is it? Like if you would have to organize a protest on it or you would write a petition about it, what would it be that you put into it? Who would you address it to? Would it be what states, companies, what? And what would be the content of the demands?
So I would say that we should ban the business model when the companies selling the users' data for companies. So Facebook could be a much better place if their real customer is ourselves, so the users, and not the corporations. And also, I think we should slow down. So we should link access to advanced technologies to a certain age, because some harmful technologies could so the problem is that some harmful technologies endangers some vulnerable groups, like underage groups. So that could be a regulatory solution for this problem.
Something that stands out for me is thinking about just your story is so powerful, like teachers and caregiver occupations, like physicians. Think about COVID, what they went through, the hours they had to work. There's not enough, making regulatory systems about getting more education opportunities paid for to bring more teachers in, to bring more physicians so they're not overworked to the point of exhaustion. Because it leads to what we call is a moral injury, where they care so much. They went into that that job because they wanted to help others, and then they can't even serve the patients in the way that it feels right to them. Like that is a moral injury. And so creating more systems to get more teachers, pay them better, get more physicians and nurses so that the systems aren't as stretched so thin. They not any type of rest isn't going to solve the burnout they were experiencing at the height of COVID, or even now. They need more support too. So I think even going down to the education level, like sponsoring scholarships, getting more people in those positions, and then making sure they have shifts that are realistic and feasible for how many patients they can treat can make a big difference. And for teachers too, having schoolrooms that aren't filled with kids, packing them, but making sure that they have enough bandwidth to do really meaningful work, because that's such important work, raising children or like helping someone who's sick. I can't imagine the moral injury that must feel to not be able to do or give to that patient in the way you really wanted to give to them.
Sorry to be so political today, but I think systems and people in power are so strong, and we might think that they don't influence so much our life, but I think that's not true. So I think we should be more conscious about what are our expectations of a leader or a politician. Because, I don't know, can you imagine a politician whose aim is to have citizens who are fulfilling their life? I mean, they can really be who they are, and I don't know. So not aim like strong economy all the time, and no education, no culture, no health care, it doesn't matter. So I think we should really have a clean vision what we expect from them. Cooperation instead of just keeping their power, or I don't know. So why do we vote for a person who is not able to cooperate with other? Why?
I feel on a systemic level, there's an absolute lack of attention on self-awareness. So that's what I would definitely bring into the workplace, that there's education, there's time, there's energy, there's resources invested on the self-awareness skills of workers, because I really feel that would be a way forward, not only in terms of avoiding burnout, but also in general, just creating a more livable work environment in the long term. And I feel that such initiatives would really have spiraling positive effects on all aspects of one's life. So that's where I see the sort of like the greatest point of importance.
Did you want to add something? No.
Well, I love all of these points, like the clarity, and tech too, big time. I'm just like, oh my gosh, if we could set certain rules around technology use or how available people are outside of the office. And I know certain countries are doing more of that, but it's so, so important. Yeah, and I think I love the self-awareness piece, because I think everything comes to know thyself, and if we don't know ourselves, how do we get the clarity of what we want in our politicians? How do we know what rules we want to set up for our technology? And I think in a world that is changing, the more we can know ourselves, the more we can navigate it collectively even, in a more empowering way too. So I'm just plussing everything that they said.
For me, it's an interesting thing. Sometimes I'm thinking about that slowly all the people die who grew up without mobile phones. So actually we don't know, we cannot compare, we cannot make experiments, you know, like I would do such I would have questions, you know, how is sex for people who never had mobile phones and never had computers, and how is sex for, I don't know, how could you measure it? But what does it mean to touch? How can we feel each other? How much we can look into each other's eye? How can we sense each other? Is this changing or not? I don't know. I have no answers. Just sometimes I feel that we even don't realize if it changes, because we don't have tools to measure this. Yeah, so that's, I think, a really, so catch people who grew up without mobile phone and make experiments with them. I mean, how are they? Are their nerve system different from the nowadays teenagers?
Yes, I suppose that we can also put it in our petition to have more and more and very robust research on things, and to follow, you know, through generations. I would encourage everyone who was here today and who was kindly listening and participating to carry on this conversation that we were having now, to talk, keep talking. Maybe not tonight because you have a lot of important partying to do, but whenever, and connect and organize and try to affect change around you as well. So thank you so much for your attention, and come tomorrow as well.